So Janice Raymond, the professor emerita of medical ethics and women's studies at UMass Amherst, listed on their website in this capacity until I think 1 or 2 days ago. Um, she was hired 50 years ago in 1975 as their first women's studies professor, at the time shared with four other colleges in the Five Colleges Consortium in Massachusetts. Shortly after being hired, she finished her PhD called Transsexualism and Etiological and Ethical Analysis. That's the title of the dissertation. That dissertation was turned into her famous book, The Transsexual Empire, which is very influential on the gender critical movement. Arguments put forth in that book are still being repeated today. And then directly after that, like 1 or 2 years later, she was sought out by the federal government for her expertise in medical ethics, and they subsequently cited their work in their decision to disallow gender affirming care under Medicare. And Janice Raymond has denied this in addition to denying being Catholic, and there's already excellent rebuttals to this, explaining, yes, she is Catholic. Yes, her work has been used to harm trans women. No, most of what she has said is completely incorrect. Hardly anything she says ever is true. Janice Raymond has a remarkably bad hit rate with telling the truth. And she's kind of propped up because she has this PhD in ethics, right? And it seems like it's definitely a fact that she has this PhD in ethics. I mean, for example, her buddy Julie Bindel wrote an article for Unheard, which I've never heard of that before. But she says Raymond was studying medical ethics when she wrote Empire. Wow, okay. Her Wikipedia page has said since 2010, and yes, I do know the exact date that it was changed to say this. This will be relevant later. I've cropped out most of the article, but it notes Professor Emerita of Women's Studies and Medical Ethics at UMass Amherst. Oh, UMass Amherst, you better change that. You're going to get in trouble. You're getting in trouble, UMass. And then also at the bottom there, again, I cropped out most of everything in between this. It notes English Lit, and then religious studies, and then a PhD in ethics and society from Boston College. And some enterprising young Wikipediaer, not me, actually, somebody else did this. Somebody noted that that doesn't seem to have any evidence, and they slapped a citation needed on top of it. So good job, whoever you were. The same mistake is made, for example, in this is Feminist Studies in Religion. Siobhan Kelly wrote an article about Janice Raymond she's not pro Janice Raymond, right? She's critical of Janice Raymond, but she also thought that the Ethics and Society PhD existed. I'll show you that this PhD, it's not possible that she would have had this. And then even like Zagria's blog spot, which is just a blog spot or whatever, but it's very detailed about a lot of different people, both transphobes and trans women. And once again, we have Ethics and Society, Boston College. So this all seems indisputable, right? It's said so many different places, and actually, UMass themselves wrote a book about how their department was founded, and it too says, after a national search, Janice Raymond, who had expertise in medical ethics, was hired. So expertise in medical ethics to me implies that, that's what her PhD was in, or she did some sort of novel research in medical ethics. If you look at what she was publishing at this time, it is nothing but transphobia. It's nothing but transphobia for like 6 years going straight back. She has one paper about something else. It's about psychosurgery, brain surgery. And she makes the argument that, doing this on women for no reason is bad, which is cool and all. But she's very far from the first person to make that point. Like, people had been saying that for decades by the time Janice Raymond got to the topic. And that was, again, at a Baptist school. Andover Newton, I believe, is where she was when she wrote that one. I could be mistaken about that. Not about that school, but that she was there at the time. Um, so this history book at UMass was written by Professor Arlene Avakian, along with Erica Arthur, who's I'll talk about her later. Um, so Arlene Avakian was part of the committee that hired Janice Raymond in the first place. So you would assume that she would know what Janice Raymond's PhD was in, because there's basically one of two possibilities there, right? Either Janice Raymond presented a faulty credential and got hired on the basis of lying about what her PhD was in, or Arlene Avakian lied on Janice Raymond's behalf. And it's either one or the other. But based on what I'm going to show you in the rest of the video, I think it's actually, look, put it this way. Say you're UMass Amherst. You are the 5 colleges, right? You're all 5 of them. You're hiring your first women's studies professor to start your women's studies department. Okay, put yourself in that headspace. According to the book, they did a national search. Okay, so you're searching all 50 states. You're looking for someone who's an expert in women's studies and medical ethics to be your first ever professor of women's studies and medical ethics, right? Does it not sound a little bit ridiculous that they would hire someone who Smith College people already knew from poetry readings and stuff that she went to, and who is from the same state, Massachusetts, and who didn't have the credential in medical ethics? She's not credentialed in medical ethics. She's a theologian. Doesn't this all seem like a little bit ridiculous that they would mess up this way and just hire their buddy? So I think it's very likely that Arlene Avakian knew that this wasn't expertise in medical ethics. This was expertise in theology. And I haven't gotten to proving that yet, so just hang on. The proof of this is actually when you try to go read Janice Raymond's dissertation, it's not in here. You go to Smith College, you go to the Sophia Smith Collection, Women's History Collection in Smith College, and you go to Mary Daly's papers. And then you have a link to digitized version of select content from the file. When you click on that, instead of getting transsexualism and etiological and ethical analysis, which I've never read still, I've still never found a copy of this thing. I think at this point it doesn't matter as much. Instead of getting that, you get a bunch of Mary Daly's notes surrounding this matter. And in those notes, it says, Religion and Society, faculty, Mary Daly, and some other people, and Max Stackhouse. So Mary Daly is Janice Raymond's advisor, and Max Stackhouse is one of the readers for the dissertation. So they're in the Religion and Society department, not the Ethics and Society department. So somebody definitely knew that she majored in religion and society, or she studied her PhD in religion and society, and they editorialized this to say ethics and society either once or over and over again, and it was quoted repeatedly as a fact. If you were just going to say she had a PhD in medical ethics, you would just say medical ethics. But instead, you see R and S and you say, oh, that's ethics and society, right? And just in case you think I'm not sure about this, here she is entering class of 1971, Janice Raymond, R&S, Religion and Society. There's M. Daly. There's Stackhouse. Max Stackhouse, by the way, is he'll be the topic of another video. I didn't put the source in here or anything, but he was a really racist guy. He compared Franz Fanon to Adolf Hitler in the 2000s. It was like Christianity and the prospects for a new global order or something very much like that. If you look up Max Stackhouse's work, you'll find that one. Again, it's not going in my sources. I didn't think I would mention it today. You'll get another video. So how did this happen? What expertise in medical ethics? How is she teaching medical ethics for 50 years. Well, she taught as a grad student at Boston College, and that's what this little newspaper article is announcing, and early in 1974. But it says, if you look close to the top left there, grad students to teach theology. Theology. So they knew it was a theology department at some point. At Boston College, they knew what she was teaching, and it's Janice Raymond and two other people, and she's teaching ethical issues in medicine and law. So now she's a lawyer and a doctor, you guys. She got promoted. She's moving up in the world. Um, and it was only like a year after this that she was hired by the five colleges. So in fall 1975, this is from the fall 1975 course catalog. And this is when they say that Janice Raymond was hired. And maybe there's a revised catalog that has her in it, but she's not quite in this one. She's almost in it, though. If you look down at the bottom, it says, in addition, Hampshire expects to be the host of a five colleges faculty appointment, or 4 or 5 colleges faculty appointment in women's studies / ethics of medical research and practice. Watch for this announcement. So they knew they were going to hire a medical ethics teacher who doesn't have a degree in medical ethics. And then in spring 76, again, in the course catalog, she's under the natural sciences department, even though you have humanities right there, right? You have humanities and arts. I don't think ethics is a natural science. I think ethics is part of philosophy and it's therefore in the humanities. I don't Is this controversial? I don't think this is controversial. I think that's like literally how it's classified. So they chose to hire her like for the biology department. That's what natural sciences are. It's like life sciences and stuff. When she's not credentialed at all in this. And the class she's teaching is a women's studies analysis of biomedical issue 2. I don't know why it's 2. Again, maybe she taught in the fall and it just wasn't in the copy of the catalog that they have online. I think that's possible. So yeah, they hired her and then they lied about what she was qualified to teach, and then they had her teach basically bioethics. And I think ordinarily you have to be like some kind of doctor to teach medical ethics. That's what I thought. I guess I'm mistaken about this because we have a fake doctor doing it, right? And yeah, a PhD is a fake doctor. Welcome to the real world. Go ask any construction worker if a PhD is a real doctor, right? Don't sit in your ivory tower and ask each other. Go ask like somebody who doesn't work in a college. Anyway, from the same document, it has a little blurb about who she is. And this little blurb notes that she's a candidate for a PhD between Andover, Newton, Boston College. And her dissertation is on the ethical aspects of transsexualism. So they know what her dissertation's about, and they know it's from a theology school, and they know that she's not qualified to teach medical ethics outside of just hating trans people. It's the one topic she cares about. She's otherwise completely uninformed. Not that she's right about us either, but again, this is like all she wrote for years and years and years. So now I want to go back and look at the UMass book, right? I mentioned this before. Arlene Avakian co-wrote this with a grad student. And what you're going to find out is that everyone who says this ethics and society thing is either, or this medical ethics lie is either being fooled or they're deeply religious. Those are your two options. So Julie Bendel is one of Janice Raymond's little buddies. And then Arlene Avakian worked with her in the same department for years, and they helped each other get hired and stuff like that. And the grad student who co-wrote this history with Arlene Avakian turns out to be pursuing a Master of Divinity with a focus on being a chaplain at Union Theological Seminary in New York. So that's another religious school. Amazing, right? Well, what about like Wikipedia, right? Surely I can't figure out, like Wikipedia, anybody can edit that. This was edited in 2015. I mean, sorry, 15 years ago in 2010. So it should be absolutely impossible to figure out who wrote this Wikipedia article, which is where the ethics and society phrase is introduced. So yeah, there's no way to figure that out. So anyway, I figured it out. This user abrin01 um, has a typically feminist understanding of technology and used the same username for her Instagram and her Flickr account. So her name is Anna Brennan Curry. Hi, Anna Brennan Curry. Um, And is she religious? Is she attached to another religious school, another Catholic school? Jesus, what would the odds of that be? That's so unlikely. There's no way that's true. Anyway, it's St. Anselm College. Here she is at St. Anselm College. I'm pretty sure this is who edited the Wikipedia page for Janice Raymond to lie about what her degree was in. We can call her up, though, and ask her. I'll do it after I record the video. Um, I think that's it for all my direct evidence. So yeah, here's some sources for you. So why do I care so much? You may be wondering, why do you care about this? Hasn't she been discredited? Everyone I talk to says you're being an anti-feminist, or they say she's already been discredited. Well, no, like UMass is saying that she's a medical ethics expert and has been for 50 years, and Wikipedia has this information, and it's widely repeated about her that she like studied medical ethics and became a medical ethics teacher. Um, but she didn't. She studied theology, and it does matter because she's going out of her way to hide the fact that her opinions about trans women are rooted in Catholic thought. And she knows, much like Jordan Peterson denies being religious. Obviously, bullshit. He uses religious reasoning. Janice Raymond uses religious reasoning, and then they say, "Oh, I'm not religious." So I think her credibility would be greatly reduced as everyone knew that the PhD she has in ethics is fake. It's not a PhD in ethics. She has a PhD in religion because she's religious. And that's why she hates trans people. Because basically, the Bible taught her to be intolerant towards LGBT people, and she was unable to grow up. Finally, I did contact UMass about this, and UMass decided to ignore me until I went to the personal webpage of their transgender expert, Ginny Beeman. I will not disclose the contents of the email exchange between me and Ginny Beeman. But maybe I will have to later. I don't know. The impression I got is that the Women's Studies Department is definitely not interested in changing this page that said that Janice Raymond was an expert in medical ethics. And they gave me a Campus Pride website showing that they were a top 10 trans university in America. And when I looked at the authorship of that website, it was in fact Ginny Beeman who sent it to me, wrote the top 10 list themselves, and then said, "Look, we're in the top 10." So it looks like UMass Amherst won't hire any like actually transsexual women to be in their women's studies department. And they just hire people who are willing to run cover for Janice Raymond. If I'm mistaken about this UMass Amherst, you have my email address. You can email me and you can tell me, "Hey, we want to sue you for defamation of character." And, you can get humiliated if you want that to happen. Go sue a homeless trans woman and then lose. Yeah, anyway, have a nice day, guys.